What's up, college football fans? Sonny Dykes here once again with the Mean Green Show, and tonight I'm joined by the real JD, and we are going to talk coaching carousel in Texas. And man, there is a lot to talk about. But guys, before we get into all of that, you already know the drill. If you're a fan of college football recruiting, the G5 football world, the transfer portal, now the coaching carousel, conference realignment, any or all of the above, consider hitting that like and subscribe button because that is truly all that we talk about. JD, thank you so much for hopping on. I know you've been busy with your cows, like you've been telling me, but where can the people find you at?
Mainly Go Mean Green. I mean, the a lot of posts there. We do our podcast. We have the barbershop podcast kind of made a return. It was kind of a COVID casualty, as a lot of other stuff. And then we also have the recruiting show. That's kind of during the season that kind of slows down because there's not much recruiting. But it's we try to do that every Wednesdays, the barbershop podcast. But yeah, that's mostly where you can find me.
And I just want to go ahead and let the people know. I know you keep the cards very close to the vest, but since doing this, I've had the privilege to talk to a lot of different people in the college football, high school football world, and get a lot of inside scoops here and there. But nobody that I've come across knows more about what's going on behind the scenes than you. And man, you do, even now, look at that poker face. You won't even break, you won't even break character. But no, in all seriousness, so I'm going to do my best tonight to pry some stuff out of JD and just get his take on it, and just see what's going on, because there is a lot going on in the great state of Tejas and all the coaches movements that is happening. So JD, first and foremost, I mean, let's just start off with Gary Patterson. That, as we're filming this, that was yesterday that they part ways mid-season. Where there's talk of, Gary didn't want to come, whatever. Who knows? Obviously, question is, do you think Gary stays in the state of Texas to coach again? A, and B, do you think he coaches again?
From everything I'm hearing, I definitely think he's going to coach again. I think he's going to be if he just does decide to coach, I think he's going to be a hot commodity. The success he's had bringing TCU from, the WAC all the way to the Big 12. I know they weren't the WAC, but
they were at one point.
They were.
Yeah.
So for him, getting them from where they were to they are now, I mean, he's, I was listening today, somebody saying, he's probably means more to TCU than any other coach in the country. I mean, so I think he's going to be a hot commodity if he does decide. I don't see him taking a step back and being a defensive coordinator or something like that. But I think, like I said, there's reports out that he's not retiring. So, I mean, I think, a couple of these Power 5 jobs opens up. I don't know how far, he wants to. I mean, he's got a nice house in Fort Worth and stuff. I don't know, if he really wants to move, say, Virginia Tech or somewhere like that. I don't see. I don't know about that, but yeah, I definitely think if you've got an opening, that should probably be one of your first calls.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Okay, so let's move from Fort Worth to Dallas. Nothing has happened yet, but what do you think happens with Sonny Dykes? Do you think TCU is going to try to knock on that door? What are your thoughts there?
I mean, it's going to have to be I would say the perfect scenario or perfect situation for him to want to leave. I mean, he's got, as hard as it is for me to say, being a North Texas fan, he's got something pretty good going there in SMU. I mean, they did lose the other night, the undefeated season, but they're still ranked. They still are carrying the Dallas brand. And, he was never my pick to go to Lubbock. I don't see him leaving what he's got in Dallas to go to Lubbock. I understand his dad's a coach, but he has made comment that, TCU is one of the top jobs in Texas. And I think with Texas and Oklahoma moving to the SEC, I think that job just got – and I know people say, well, the Big 12 is not what the Big 12 would have been. But, yeah, they just moved up to one of the top, 2 or 3 teams in the Big 12 with that move. So whatever's left of the Big 12, they're going to be probably one of the top jobs in that conference.
Yes, and obviously we're both North Texas fans, so yeah, we don't want to praise SMU too much, but facts are facts. And he has strong recruiting classes coming up in the pipeline that he's already got committed and in the door, and he's done that at SMU.
And I've seen his name brought up to Virginia Tech. We talk about that later. I don't see him being a guy that, he was at Louisiana Tech, had a good thing, went to Cal. Um, a lot of coaches don't get a second chance like he has. When you go and lose, not everybody works their way back up as quick as he did. So I don't see him jumping to a Virginia Tech. I really feel like he's going to stay in the state of Texas, TCU. I think is a job that I could see him taking, but like I said, I don't see him moving off again um, and leaving what he's got.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing with TCU, that's still the Metroplex. He would be able to recruit even better because he's in the Big 12, so he would really be able to, test those talents, if you will, as far as his recruitment goes. And I wonder how many kids would transfer over with him if that happens. Of course, we don't know if that's going to happen. At least I don't. You may, but you won't let me know if you do know that. But would Preston Stone go? I think Mordecai may go to the draft after this year anyway. And
I don't think no coach in college football has utilized the transfer portal like Sonny Dykes has. I mean, he has.
yes,
I mean, for a G5 school, I would say he's dominated the transfer portal. I mean, he's brought in a ton of kids and a ton of them have hit. I mean, you watch that game the other night, and I mean, it's West Virginia transfer, Oklahoma transfer, I mean, Auburn transfer. I mean, they have done a great job there at SMU with the transfer portal. And you see a lot of teams that do. I mean, let's take Texas State, for instance. They went with a full class of transfers, and they're at the bottom of the Sun Belt. So I mean, it's a tricky situation, but SMU has dominated. So I would think, if he did go to TCU, I could see him still utilizing that portal like he has at SMU for sure.
absolutely, and maybe bringing Coach Samples with him. So
Yeah.
yeah, and as far as from leaving SMU to go to Texas Tech, yeah, obviously it's a bigger conference, whatever, but I think he's got too good of a thing at SMU to leave SMU for Tech with all that going on. However,
Yeah.
TCU, that's a different animal. That's just kind of a bigger SMU. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
a more of a national stage, just factually speaking,
Mhm.
and just to see what he could possibly do there would be interesting, which might open up an SMU job. Okay, so UTSA has just pretty much thrown the athletic budget at Coach Traylor and seems to have retained him from Tech anyway.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's a done deal? They've locked him up, thrown away the key where no one else is going to come. Do you think TCU will try to throw their hat in the ring for Traylor, or what do you think Traylor's a done deal now?
I don't know how Traylor. I mean, you hear rumblings. I don't know how his ending at SMU was. I know he was set to coach the bowl game. He didn't get the head coaching job. Dykes came in, uh, coached the Frisco Bowl. Traylor, left jump ship to Arkansas to join Chad Morris. So I don't know how that situation. If there's any bad blood there, but I think UTSA adding I think this year is a $7.5 million buyout. I think it cuts a lot of teams out of that. I mean, I don't know Texas Tech's budget or anything like that. I mean, from everything I've had and asked, I think everybody still says like it's not done, but the videos that UTSA's put out and stuff, you would think that it would be a horrible look if you go and give your coach, lock him up and say he's the next coach for the next 10 years, and then a month later he's headed to Lubbock. At the same time, I think it was a smart move because if he does leave, that's 7.5 million. They just get a check cut for, and that really helps their athletic, program. At the same time, I don't think it's the case, but if Traylor does go down there and the ship sinks, you know, I don't know how a school like UTSA can, handle the $28 million contract. It's a huge contract for a G5 football program, especially one that it seems like in the past they haven't had the biggest budget. So not sure where the money came from, or if they're just taking a gamble and taking out a loan and saying, hey, if it pans out, we hit a gold. We hit gold. If it doesn't, we'll figure it out later. But um, I was shocked. My pick was I thought Traylor was always my pick to go to Lubbock. I think his East Texas ties, from being a coach at Gilmer forever. He's arguably the one of the. I mean, I'd probably say he's the best recruiter in Texas right now. I think him going out to Lubbock. because it's not an easy place to recruit in Lubbock, especially when you've got teams like Baylor, UT San Antonio, Houston, TCU, SMU, North Texas. I mean, it's hard to get kids to go out there. I mean, so I think him going out there would help out and help Tech. They've struggled the last few years. I thought it would have been a home run hire for them, but maybe UTSA slammed the door at least for now because it's going to have to be a pretty big player to come in there and pay that buyout.
Right, right. And we'll talk Coach Littrell a little bit more towards the end of the video, but moving things south down to Texas State. Again, we don't call for people's jobs. It's not what we do here, but just kind of got to call a spade sometimes though. And Coach Spavital, I mean, it's looking like this will probably be it. I think, just probably his
Yeah.
last year. And that'll probably just be an opening. So moves us to our second part of this. Who do you think would fill a hypothetical void of an SMU, maybe even in North Texas, and a Texas State? If those all become available, what are some names you think will be tossed around? Who do you think will have first dibs? If we're all vying for a new coach, and let's say there's Coach A, everybody all wants Coach A. Where's Coach A going to go, and why? But are you hearing any possible names that could come into any one of those programs that could come in? You know what I mean? Come in and take over the job if the job is available.
Yeah, I haven't. To be honest, I haven't heard anything about Texas State. I've got several friends that went down there and stuff, and we're not really a rival. We haven't played them. I think we got a game scheduled in the future, so I'm always kind of in the back of my mind cheering for them because we don't really. It doesn't seem like we go against. We don't recruit against them a lot, but they are struggling, and I hate it because I've been a big cheering for UNT use the transfer portal, and then you see a team like Texas State who does the experiment and takes all transfer portal kids, and then now it's a dumpster fire. So you hate that, but at the same time, you see most athletic directors, if something doesn't work, they'll go the opposite. If something works, they'll try to recreate what they've got. With him being an offensive coordinator, young type, I could see them going, a proven head coach with a defensive background, a guy that I've been fascinated with, a guy that I liked for many years, Colby Carthel at SFA. I think that he's a motivator. He won at Texas A&M Commerce. He's doing some good things at SFA. He's just going up against the juggernaut Sam Houston right now. So, I could see him going that road. Sam Houston's coach is another guy. I could see them going that FCS proven head coach, that kind of route. And that may be completely wrong. I just, most of the time it seems like when you see teams that go for the coordinator route, they'll go with proven head coach or, rebounding head coach, something along those lines.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously an FCS coach isn't the most sexiest hire or whatever. It's not like a Lane Kiffin or a Gus Malzahn, but if it works, it works. And if they're doing it at that level successful, and who's to say they can't come up and emulate that success at the FBS level. And okay, so what about in the hypothetical world, North Texas is open and SMU is open? How do you think those dominoes fall?
I mean, I think right now, just not trying to sugarcoat. I think SMU is going to be the more prized job. I think that, I'm not really sure what SMU is kind of toss up. If I had to put money today, I'd probably say that Dykes isn't leaving. If he does go, do they, Dykes, like I said, if, most ADs try to recreate what's been working for them. So SMU, Dykes is what I call a rebounding coach. He had success at Louisiana Tech, went to California, didn't work out. He figured out the problems, came to SMU and built. So, you look at a coach like Mike Norvell. He had success at Memphis. It's not panning out at Florida State. I don't know if that's him or if it was he just kind of inherited a bad situation and hadn't been able to get out of the rut. I could see a coach like that. He's had success in the American before, but like I said, if I had to put house money right now in bed, I'd probably say Dykes stays just because he does have a good thing going. It's just a matter of, does he think that SMU's hit the ceiling? I know we've talked about SMU could be that next realm or next addition to the Big 12. Does he want to wait around and try to be their Gary Patterson, or does he want to go and already get the for sure thing there in Fort Worth? And I mean, Fort Worth, TCU's got unbelievable facilities. They've got it's a neat little town. I mean, I think that probably the potential there is a little greater than SMU, but I mean that's 100% something he's got to decide.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And if they don't go, if Dykes doesn't go to TCU, where do you think TCU goes for their coaching search?
That's a tough one. I don't. You got to think they had a guy in their mind to pull the trigger on Patterson when they did. I mean, it's midway through the season. Yeah, I mean they're not going to contend for the national championship. They're not ranked or nothing like that. But to I understand given the he's the legend. He technically built TCU football. You want to give him ample amount of time to say, hey, we're moving a different direction. But for them to do it right now, it kind of gives you the idea that, hey, there's somebody that they've got their eye on that they want to lock down before some of these other jobs become available. Because we've talked about Florida State, Texas State, Virginia Tech, Texas
Mhm.
Tech's already open, LSU's open. I mean, there's a ton of jobs available right now, and it's I feel like we're 4 weeks away from it, just crazy.
Yeah, yeah. That'll be interesting to see how that pans out. There's a bunch of big names that'll be on the market too. I feel like anyway. All
Yeah.
right, so switching gears over to North Texas, and okay, so Coach Littrell. I mean, we don't know. We're over here playing armchair athletic director right now, so no idea. And but it's not outlandish to think his seat's fairly warm right now, and given our schedule, the remaining of it, we have, we go to Southern Myths, then we play UTEP, then at FIU, then we finish off with UTSA. If he, if UNT was to win against Southern Miss, UTEP, and FIU, go 3-0 for the next three, and then lose to UTSA, giving us a 5-7 record, do you think that would save Coach Luttrell's job for another year? Also from the standpoint of the fiscal side of, I've heard that the buyout after this year is $2 million. Have you heard that is the buyout too?
I don't have the exact details. I know that after the season it does drop quite a bit, but I don't know the exact details.
Okay, maybe it's two or mil, but whatever it is, it is hefty. And if they gave him another year, I would assume, because I know he has 2022 and 23 left on his contract, I believe. Does that sound
Mhm.
right to you? If you,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if he were to hypothetically play out the 22 season and maybe turn things around, A, or B, if not, if it's another 5-7, then, but the buyout would be significantly less. Anyway, just kind of want to get your thoughts on that. And that's with us losing to UTSA. That's not including the possibility of us making a bowl this year and going 6-6.
Right.
But just a 5-7. That do you think we would be in the market for a new coach with a 5-7 record, or do you think we would have Coach Luttrell for another year?
I mean, I think so. I think so, and I think it's just more about the body of work. Um, you know,
Think
it's
so? Meaning you think we'll be on the market for a coach with a 5-7 record?
I think so. I mean,
Okay.
and I say that just from the fact that this is not just one bad season. We're talking about this is the third consecutive season, and I think this team, everybody kind of went in the mindset that the schedule was hard. The team wasn't that good, but looking back, I mean, there were some games that were winnable early on. We should, Liberty should have won. Louisiana Tech should have won. SMU could have won. I mean, there were some games, and I think that now in year six, I've heard injuries, depth. Last year was COVID. The year before that was supposed to be a down year, and at some point you just got to he is Seth is I think a great guy. I think he's done some good things for the North Texas program, but you got to look and say, we've been in Conference USA all 6 years he's been here, and arguably no coach has had more resources in Conference USA. Not to mention, he's been making the most. His staff's been making the most, and it's a combination of bad hires, bad quarterback evaluation. I would say poor roster management. I mean, you look at it, it's 65 or something freshmen right now, and there's like 6 seniors. So I mean, I feel like, and I've said it before, put it on the, go mean green. I wish they would have went a little more, maybe grad transfer heavy a little more. Let's try to save our jobs mentality. Um, but I guess, I mean, it could have played out like Texas State, but yeah, I mean, it's just even the Rice game, just dumb penalties. It's not a disciplined team. It's a lot of the same stuff that's been happening,
Mm-hmm.
year after year after year. And it was some stuff that, you see that was overshadowed by, the fact that we had Mason Fine and Jalen Guyton and Rico Bussey and Jeffrey Wilson. And, when you think about that team, we had 6 NFL caliber players. And I think that overshadowed a lot of the same stuff we're seeing now. So, I mean, with new conference on the horizon, I think it'd be 2023. So if you move on from Seth here, the new coach has a year in Conference USA to get the team headed in the right direction so you can hit the ground running in 2023. Um, but give him a year to get some of his guys in here. Now, don't get me wrong. I think this, and I've said it before, and I'll, give Seth credit. This team, this roster, and I'll give Luke credit too, the chief of staff. This roster is much better than it was the day that Seth took over. I mean, there is talent on this roster. It's just getting a coach to get in here, fill some gaps, and um, get the ship headed in the right direction.
Absolutely, man. Here's to brighter days ahead for sure. So,
For sure.
well, hey, JD, thank you so much for jumping on. Anything else we need to speak on before we jump off this evening?
No, I do. We go back to the schedule. I do think there's a very good chance that we could be 5-6 heading into the last week, and I think there's going to be a lot of hindsight 2020, um, where we could look back and say that team should have won 7 games, that team could have won 8 games,
Mm-hmm.
but I would like. I mean, if we can finish strong. And the UTS game, it's a rivalry game. So, I mean, I feel like you always, no matter the records going in, you kind of throw those out the window. So, I mean, anything
Yeah.
could happen. Now, if we do go 6-6, we do make a bowl game, it's going to be extremely hard to fire the coach. I mean, or fire Seth. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
it's
That
hard
would
enough
be,
to come up with $2 or $3 million to buy out a coach, much less when they're in a bowl game. So,
yeah.
if that happens, then we push the Seth
Yeah.
definitely buys another year.
Yeah.
It's well deserved.
And just for all the North Texas fans, what I'm about to say, I don't think will happen, but I'm just saying mathematically it could happen. But yeah, they could still go 6-6, go to a bowl game and win. Mathematically speaking, go 7-6. Could you imagine the shock I'm sure we would all have if that were to happen? But
And
yeah,
I've been I've been the even from the day he was hired, I've been a Seth homer. So I mean, if that happened, I've always wanted Seth to you know have success in North Texas and move on. I mean, I was upset when the Kansas State thing happened, but at the same time, where would we be today if he would have took that job? Got another guy in here. I mean, it's hard for a G5 to turn over coaches, but at the same time, it makes it that much more of a sexy job to go to.
mm-hmm, absolutely. Well, all right, JD, thanks again. And yeah, we'll see how the cookie crumbles. Go mean green.
Go Mean Green.